All right, welcome back. An Allentown man's decision to get a cup of coffee 20 years ago may have saved his life. Matin Moosa was inside the North Tower when it was hit by American Airlines Flight 11, and he joins us now. Matin, we are in the 8 o'clock hour 20 years later. Where were you in the 8 o'clock hour 20 years ago?
At this particular time, good morning, first of all. At this particular time, I was getting into the tower, going up to the office on the 78th floor where I worked.
And so we've been hearing that it was a cup of coffee that saved your life. Tell us about that cup of coffee.
Sure. So Tuesday, of course, was when this happened. And Monday, I did not go to work. So Tuesday, I went in early to catch up on work. When I got there, two of my coworkers were there, and they were surprised to see me. So they said, "Hey, come and have a cup of coffee with us." And on the 44th floor of the tower, there was a cafeteria. And so we proceeded to go towards the 44th floor and get a cup of coffee.
So you worked, like you said, you work on the 78th.
Correct.
So that's kind of right around where the plane hit, isn't it?
Correct. Yeah, I think it was on 82nd floor and on the side, exactly where the corner in which I worked at.
So you would not be with us had you not gone to get that coffee.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, yeah. I sometimes we don't like to think about that, right?
You obviously weren't there. The cup of coffee saved you, but can you tell us a little bit about, it was an experience kind of getting out after that happened, because you were still in the building, obviously.
Correct. We just sat down. We got our coffee. They got their breakfast. We just sat down, and within a minute, the building started to shake. And we were on the west side, so we were facing towards the World Financial Center. And the building leaned that way, so we thought, okay, we're going to fall that way, so hold on. And then it started to sway the other way, and then we're like, okay, it's going the other way. So there was commotion, obviously, at that time, and we all kind of gathered towards the center of the floor of the cafeteria. The cafeteria workers were there. One of them had a walkie-talkie, and he signaled that, oh, they're telling us to get out of the building.
The stairs.
Yeah, well, we had no choice, correct? We said, and so we opened up the door to lead to the exit stairs, and obviously it was full of smoke at that time. But we had to go through. So we started to, descend from the 44th floor to the stairwell.
Were the sprinklers spraying water?
Not yet, because I don't think that they kicked in, but it wasn't until we got down to the lower levels, maybe in the teens, in which we noticed the water coming up towards our cabs, and it was just gushing through on the doors at that time. And maybe it was because the firefighters were hooking up their hoses also. We don't, I don't know, but that's kind of when some of the panic started, because up to that point, there was a little bit of a calm. People didn't really know, because there weren't smartphones at that time. So one person had a Bloomberg pager, and that's how we kind of found out that, a plane had hit the tower. We did not know about the second plane hitting at all until we got out.
And now on this morning, 20 years ago, the fact that it was what space are you in? What emotions do you have?
This is my third time speaking about it publicly. It is emotional. I think because of the coverage this year being a little bit more than normal, it's been a week long worth of these mixed emotions about that day.
Yeah, I know it wasn't easy to do this, so we thank you. What do you do in Allentown, and what were you doing 20 years ago in the building?
Well, I was working for a software development firm in the World Trade Center. And luckily, it was only three of us there, because we had an off-site meeting in New Jersey, which most of the people were.
Wow.
Thank God.
So there was only three of us there. But after that, I left that industry, and we have my brothers and I. We have small businesses, real estate business, car business, things like that, and just connecting with the family.
Yeah.
So you said you went back to Allentown, you started or moved into a different business, but you also say that this experience reaffirmed or changed your faith, your kind of outlook. How did this change you personally?
Yeah, when I think when I say that to people, they sometimes, being a Muslim myself, they get a different take on it. But I didn't see this as an act of against my faith, obviously, or within the name of my faith. These were criminals that did what they did. For me, it was like what if analysis came in. What if I would have perished? What would have happened to me, my soul? What would have happened to my children? What would have happened to, my family, my community, my fellow Americans per se? So I, started to think about how could I get involved and make sure that my remaining years on this earth are productive and are giving back to the community, feeding the poor, helping the needy, various things like that, that we involved in.
Matin, you're a Muslim?
Yes.
And has there been negativity toward you over the 20 years?
Initially, I always say that particular day, September 11th, we saw the worst of humanity, but then we also saw the best of humanity. Because as I was walking the streets of New York, because everything was shut down, I couldn't get home. I lived in Brooklyn at that time. People were helping each other, handing out water bottles. I was drenched. A lot of the people were drenched because we walked through that, and they were helping out in any way they could. So I think that the experiences that I personally have faced in terms of negativity, necessarily it wasn't directly towards me, community wise, but again, these are things that we have to work through.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, you say that this changed you profoundly, you wanted to contribute, you wanted to make sure communities were continuing to get better. Has that been your experience with other people who were impacted? Are we learning, growing, continuing to get better?
Yeah, I think that I was watching your program yesterday morning, and you had a doctor on there. And I think that collectively we need to get back to September 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, those days after, where we all came together. As I said, I was living in Brooklyn. Our neighborhood knew exactly where I was at that time. And, they consistently asked where was I safe? Were my family and I had a 3-year-old daughter at that time. Were we okay? And did we need anything? And if anybody's bothering us, to let them know. And I think that's what we need to get back to, that we are all in this together. We are Americans, each and every one of us, and we need to be, together on these things.
Yeah. Well, you're awesome, by the way. And
Thank you.
we're also grateful that you went to get that cup of coffee. In fact, why don't you have a cup of coffee right now?
Yeah, I do, right here.
You got it. Toast to you.
Thank you for sharing your
right.
story.
Thanks
That
for having me.
absolutely seems like the message to
Yeah.
end that with.
Let's go with what he said.